disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, cloud, and machine learning, these are truly exciting times for the field of science and technology. Yet, conversations about including more women in tech and STEM fields are made in hushed tones. While things might be changing slowly but surely, the need for women to join the workforce is now more than ever. Amazon Web Services recently released a report that notes that the number of workers applying digital skills in APAC countries will increase by over fivefold to 819 million workers in 2025 to keep up with the technological changes. To achieve this level of skilling in the APAC region, that is Singapore, Australia, India, Indonesia, Japan, and South Korea, 5.7 billion digital skill training will be required. This is where women should step forward and bring in their talents to this male-dominated industry. Hello listeners, I'm Apurva from Analytics Insight, and to shed light on this topic, I'm in conversation with Anna Green, Head of ISV and DNB segment, Asia Pacific and Japan at Amazon Web Services. Hi Anna, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Apurva, thank you so much for having me.
So let's quickly begin the podcast with you telling us a brief overview of your background in the company and what are your contributions to the role of your company.
Sure. Look, I am the head of the ISV and DNB segment across Asia, Pacific and Japan here at AWS. And the role itself has been in creation since 2019, and that's as a result of the fact that we as an organisation has really thought differently about our customers. As you may have heard, AWS is a customer-obsessed organisation, and as we build our businesses, we try to think about how we can help our customers in their journey wherever they are in the world. And what we realised is that we needed a segment that was built at an Asia-Pacific level that really helped our ISV and DNB customers to build and grow their services and their products, not just in their own region, but across Asia Pacific, Japan, and indeed across the world. So that's what I've been doing for the last 18 months, and it's been a fantastic journey. But prior to that, Apurva, my role was that I was the CEO of ANZ Bank in the Philippines, and then before that in Laos. And then prior to that, I was the Chief Risk Officer at ANZ in Laos, and then prior to that I was a lawyer working both in banking and corporate law. So I've had quite a few pivots in my career, and I'm really excited to be here working at AWS now in what I believe to be the most exciting and certainly the business that provides customers the most opportunity to grow in the future.
So from your past stint as a lawyer to your past role as a banking profession, how did you end up at a tech role at AWS, and how was your past experience or the lessons that shaped your journey as a successful leader in AWS as of now?
Okay, so I'll answer the first part of that question, which is how did I end up moving into technology? I've always viewed my career as a learning journey, Apurva. I have what you would call one of our leadership principles here at AWS, which is one of the things that I really care about is learning and being curious. So even though I was a lawyer at the beginning of my career, I was always open to opportunities to learn more about different parts of the business, which then led me into opportunities to manage the risk of our businesses. And then through managing the risk of the business, I learnt how to run the front part of the business, and that works from a banking perspective. And then what I learnt and was curious about was that the way that my customers were engaging with their own business models whilst I was running a bank. And I could see that the future for all customers in all industries was that they would be facing into different business models, which were driven primarily by digital business models. And for me, the opportunity to come and work here at AWS and learn with those customers and help them on that journey to build and grow their businesses on the cloud was just such a great opportunity. And that's the reason why I moved as I did in my career, really just to continue to learn and be curious in my life. And in terms of leaders who have inspired me on that journey, well, there's many. But what I would say is that really just started very early on with, female leaders in my life. Someone just as simple as being inspired by my mother. So my mother ran a business. She ran her own business while raising 2 children. I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to that. Women these days are doing more than one thing. And not only did she do that, but she was very inspirational in the way in which she thought about learning herself. So even just last year, she finished a doctorate in fine art. So my mother was a really amazing role model for me and really made me think differently about taking opportunities to learn. And certainly that's what I've done in my career.
As you said, learning and being curious was always a part of your core. And from my perspective, tech field is all about learning and unlearning to keep up with new developments that happen throughout all the domains of technology, right? So in that sense, can you tell us, what were your primal challenges during the initial phase of your journey from when you were shifting from, a banking profession to technology? What were your primal challenges that, made you stop and wonder if you can do this and if what you thought of doing was like the right leap of faith?
Yeah, and those type of choices have occurred to me throughout the course of my career, Apurva. So when I first started as a lawyer, I could have chosen to be a lawyer and do that profession, as I said, and really commit myself to drafting documents and dealing with customers. But internally, the challenge was, am I really finding this interesting? Is this really my passion? Is this really where I want to build and grow? And whilst it was really important for me to go deep as a lawyer and develop those technical skills, so I did stay being a lawyer for the first 7 years of my career and developed those deep technical skills. But once I had developed those, there was something inside me that really was driven to learn more, particularly about international business, because I had grown up in a family that were migrants by definition. They were first generations Australians. My mother came from Dutch South African and Swiss German parents, and my father was from British, Scottish and Welsh parents. So that was always a part of my background. So the idea of me staying and doing one thing and not being curious about what was happening in the rest of the world really was not an option for me. I was always driven to learn more. And so the challenge, of course, is when you're thinking to move into another technical field, you really need to back yourself to be able to learn those things on the job. So as a lawyer, you develop skills around customer management, around drafting, around communicating well, both written and oral, and there was project management skills as well. So I was able to feel that I had done enough of that type of work to be able to move into a different and complementary industry and apply those in a different way and with a different lens. So that's the way that I approach my challenges, which were, am I bringing the right technical skill set to bear? And to be honest with you, Apurva, a lot of it is about feeling like you can back yourself to move into a different role and trust that you are capable of learning it and you have those skill sets that will allow you to learn it as you build and grow. And as I said, that's my learn and be curious leadership principle, which has led me here to AWS.
I absolutely agree with you when what you said was that, it's your curiosity that drove you to follow, what you actually wanted to do. And that's how you made the leap of faith from a non-technical background to a technical profession. And I'm sure that came with its own roadblocks from an organization's point of view also. Can you tell me, how can businesses remove barriers for women who want to enter the tech industry? Like, women are so underrepresented in the STEM field itself that even if the change is happening right now, the pace, I feel, is quite slow compared to how it should be in 2021.
Yes, I agree with you. There is so much more that we can do. But what I'm really happy about here at AWS is that I see that we are starting to build and grow these mechanisms across various different lenses. So to your question, how can we really remove barriers and affect change? excuse me, the answer would be that we need to do it in an intentional way. So one thing I know for sure as a banker is what gets measured gets done. So there is value in implementing structural policy change in organisations to ensure that we are addressing our own biases in the way in which we are building out our workforce. So simple things like ensuring that we have a maternity and a paternity leave policy that supports our teams and our customers. It supports our teams to support our customers. Flexible work policies, all of these type of things which become mandated in the organisation then become something that everybody accepts and allow women in the workforce to think differently about the types of jobs that they can do. So that structural policy piece is very important. What I would also say is that visible leadership is very important because, of course, you can't see what you can't be. So it's fine to say we would like to see some senior leaders, but we who are women, but perhaps we don't have any in our pipeline. It's very important for organisations simply to take the leap of faith, and in a lot of instances you're not taking a leap of faith because the women that you're employing are indeed very skilled and capable of doing the jobs. It's just a matter of existing management thinking differently about the way in which they build and grow their own management teams. So I would say visible leadership is important, but also structural change is equally as important.
From your perspective, do you think visible leadership and the change, of how the management thinks and perceives towards, employing more women into the workforce, do you think that is catching a greater pace than how it was in 2020 and 2019?
Absolutely. It really is. And I can be honest, I'm involved in so many activities for diversity and inclusion, and we have customers who are so committed to making a change in this space. And again, Apurva, I must stress that this is not about equity and fairness, even though it is the right thing to do to ensure that both men and women have access to jobs in our communities. It's actually about business outcomes. So we have many studies that have suggested, done by the World Economic Forum and BCG, many consultancies have produced a lot of studies and statistics around the fact that having a diverse leadership table, having a diverse employee mix really results in better business outcomes. And it really does. It's also just common sense. If you are a customer-obsessed company like we at AWS are, if you are designing products to meet your customer need, half of the customers in the world are women. So it doesn't make sense to only be building and growing products with only the lens of men. So for me, it also makes business sense. And we have some amazing customers that are doing great things in this space, like AWS customers and in India, you'll be familiar with Mad Street Den. So Ashwini Asakan, she runs an AI company there in India, and she builds AI products for retail customers, like fashion brands like Saks Fifth Avenue and Ferragamo, and she's working with some really amazing high-level retailers building out her product. And what I love about what she's done is that half of her employees are women. And so she's not just talking about it being a good idea, she's actually implementing it in practice. So to your question, absolutely we're seeing momentum, and we're seeing it with the heads of companies, and we're seeing it all the way across Asia Pacific and Japan.
As you said, building, a diverse workforce works best to even get better ROI and to see, better products that are coming out in the market that are just not made from the male point of view. So in that sense, how does the She Builds initiative by AWS pitch in to, diversify tech communities in the APAC regions further?
Yeah, She Builds is such a great initiative. And, we have a vision of scaling this program, not just across Asia Pacific and Japan, but across the world, because it's such a vital way to help women to build their presence in the technology community. So what She Builds is it's a large-scale event. So we start with we start with face-to-face events. We have 3 of them throughout the year, and we ask senior female leaders from across our customers, from across our communities, across Asia Pacific and Japan, to come and talk to a Twitch audience, a live Twitch audience, about the things that they're doing within AWS, but also across the technology field more broadly. We have artificial intelligence specialists, women doing amazing stuff with technology in many different personas, and they come and they speak really openly about their experiences, not only from a technical perspective, because that's a really important thing that we need to do, which is break down a perception that women are not technical or doing technical jobs. There are many women doing technical jobs, and She Builds always tries to speak to that audience so that we can show women, young women in particular, that there's amazing careers for them open in technology. But secondly, She Builds is also running programs of work that allow us to help with mentorship, career planning, and then we have AWS Cloud U, which is it's a community-driven training program, and it's also including mentorship, and it's allowing women across technology to build and grow their technology skills. And really, just to speak to some of the statistics we've seen, we had over 7,000 registrations for the She Builds Day in 2019. Last week we continued our most recent event, and again we've had over 4,000 around about 4,000 views on Twitch. We've had 364 people register on our Cloud U program, which is a Cloud University free training program. We've just had so much positive feedback from the community. So, and again, just to speak to your question, it's really only just gotten started with these programs, and we've got so much more that we're going to do and build and scale around them. And we've had so much positive feedback from our customers and our communities that, for me, it's essential that we keep building and growing these programs so that we can reach more women.
That's fantastic. I mean, the numbers speak for itself, how much this is being accepted by people and how many people are coming forward to voice themselves out. And while coming up with the She Builds initiative, why do you think mentorship and networking is such a key part to develop the next generation of female leaders?
I think one thing we know for sure from studies that we've seen in the past, Harvard Business College and various others have looked at the way in which men and women build out their careers. And one thing that is clear is that men have learnt to or do network and sponsor each other in a very different way to women. And that's a function of many things. But fundamentally, it's about the institutions in which a lot of our business is being done historically having been built and occupied by men. And, again, that's just factual and historical. But what it means is that that's a skill set that women don't necessarily cultivate, and one that they don't necessarily know how to build themselves. So there is something, I believe, to mentorship, both formal and informal, as we help women to think about how to build a career in technology. So we've built that as part of our She Builds program. So we've had 18 She Builds mentorship registrants just in 2020, and that number is growing this year, and we're really planning to scale that across Asia Pacific and Japan. But what is important about that is that we are actually thinking that women need help both on mentorship but also on sponsorship. And I try whenever I can to ensure that I'm doing both informal and formal mentoring to ensure that we're helping women, young women in particular, to build and grow their skills and their networks across the community, because it can be very daunting, Apurva, when you're in an organisation that is fundamentally dominated by men, to think about, well, how do I build and grow myself, and do I have the right skill set? And we all know that women have a predisposition to not back themselves necessarily in those conversations. So it's important to help them build their confidence, and that's part of what mentorship does.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It can be a little intimidating to, even wonder how do you, carve yourself in the industry where, it's completely dominated, like not completely, like most of them is like dominated by men, and it's the way forward that seems more intimidating. And, once you reach the level that you want to reach. So, just so our listeners are in tune with the She Builds initiative, can you tell us some mentorship programs available for women in tech under this initiative?
Yeah, so the She Builds has a AWS Cloud University, which is a community-driven program, and within that there is a mentorship program, which women can reach out for and get involved in as part of She Builds. So this is all available on our She Builds website, which is at AWS landing page, and indeed. There are many people that can be reached out to as part of the She Builds program to help any woman who's interested in getting involved in the mentorship program to put their name down and become part of the She Builds community. But as I said, one of the things I think is important, Apurva, is absolutely key for us to have structural mentorship programs. But I would encourage women to also try to build out informal networks. So if you see someone and you're impressed by what they do or you're interested in what they do, man or woman, reach out to them in an informal way and ask if you can have a coffee with them. And sometimes those people will be open and available to that, and sometimes they won't. But that is really, honestly, the best way to build and grow a network. And it's very unlikely as part of that conversation that you would start by saying, "Will you be my mentor?" Because that's just a strange and awkward conversation. But what you might do is develop a relationship with that person. And that is the way to think about building trust, earning trust, another very big part of our leadership principles here at AWS, which is earning trust. And you can do that by building relationships with people who you want to learn from, and just be open and transparent in that conversation. And most people that I have found are willing to help. And I think, again, we've got great people at AWS. We're very lucky to have a community of people who are really, collectively trying to help each other. But I think also, in my experience, in my career, if you're genuinely asking for help in a way that is not asking someone too much of their time, and you're well prepared for that discussion, and then you go away and do the work afterwards, people are always willing to take time and help. And that's been my learning on my own leadership journey. Like, reach out to people that you want to learn from.
So from networking to bridging the skill gap to, making a diverse workforce to create products that is, flexible for everyone to use, how do you see the future of the industry? Like, where do you think the tech industry is headed towards?
I think it's exciting times, and that's the reason that I moved into the tech industry, because what I see is exponential growth in all of the industries that certainly in which AWS touches. We have some amazing customers, as I said, who are doing a lot around diversity and inclusion. Here in Australia, we have the Afterpay organisation, which is a very large digital native business run by Lee Hatton here in Australia, and she's done some amazing work with her team, not just on building and designing a product that works for her customers and thinking through the lens of diversity in designing that, but also with her own team. So I was so impressed when I first dialed onto a call with them and saw that all of her leadership team, I think bar one or two, were women. And she said to me, I didn't think anything about that, but thank you for raising it. You're right. Like, for her, it's natural for her to employ the smartest people in the room to do the best job. And to me, that's really inspirational. And I think she kind of leads by example here in Australia. And I think similarly, we're seeing that kind of thinking across our customers in all of our markets in Asia Pacific and Japan. We really are seeing strong momentum behind thinking differently about including everyone at the table when we're thinking about how to serve our customers. Everybody's viewpoint is important, and when you represent it, you will end up with a much better business outcome for your customer.
You have an inspiring story yourself, like, right from leaving a career in banking and migrating to the tech industry at a time when there's so much happening. And as you said, your curiosity and your will to learn has driven you to come to this industry. And, you're also, hosting a lot of initiatives to mentor women and, help them make their own, help them carve their own path in the tech industry and make them less intimidated to face the male-dominated industry. So, from a women leader yourself, what is your advice to emerging women leaders who might be a part of your initiative, or who are just, listening to this with hopes that, they just need that push to, start their journey from this point?
That's a lovely question, because, I don't often reflect on myself as someone who has been intentional. I didn't wake up in the morning and decide that I wanted to be the CEO of a bank. Neither did I decide that I wanted to be a tech executive across Asia Pacific and Japan. I feel very fortunate to have had those opportunities, but I also know that I worked very hard in order to make those opportunities happen. That didn't happen by chance. And so what I would say to young women, and indeed we had an early careers chat as part of our AWS She Builds conversation, which was probably the most interesting part of the conversation for me, because it was two young women who were starting out on their technology journey, and they were both interns at AWS, and they had some really insightful things to say about how they thought about, building a career in technology, where, to be frank, it is still very much an industry dominated by men, especially in a technical context. However, it was wonderful to hear from them, because they were enthusiastic about the opportunity. And what I would say is my learning is that I have always been open to opportunities. I have always been curious to learn more about what's happening in the world, not just in my own backyard. And as a result of that, it has brought opportunities to bear for me. And I have taken some risks as part of that. And I think women, generally speaking, feel less inclined to take risks. And so my advice for young women is, if you are interested, or for women at any age, if you're interested in something, find an opportunity, take a risk, and be confident that you are someone who can do that job. You have probably already got the skill sets that you need to do that job. And if you don't, you can learn them. And the other part of that is learning those skills on the job. It's entirely possible, and it is what all of us have to do in order to progress. So being open to learning and being curious, I would say, is the first thing. And then secondly, take a risk and back yourself.
Absolutely, those were some very inspiring words that you said, that, women who want to enter the tech industry, but, are looking for the right push, should realize that they might already possess the skills that the industry is looking for. And even if they don't, there is always a way to polish their skills, get updated with the new skills that is required, and just jump into the workforce and just start from the basic step and move forward with whatever life is going to throw it.
What I would say is that I do. Yeah, I see it all the time with the women who I interview, the women who are leaders, and I see it with women who come to me for professional advice. They often say, there's this job, it's available, I'm not really sure I can do it. It needs 10 skills and I have 7 of them. And then I see a male colleague who will come to me with the same exact role and say, there's a job, I can definitely do it. I've got 7 of the skills. I don't have 3 of them, but I can definitely do those other 3. I'll just learn them on the job. So even with that lens, you realize that women themselves are putting themselves at they're not applying and back and being confident in their own ability to build and grow. And I really completely are empathetic to that, and I understand it. So when I have women who come to me for career advice, I encourage them to look at their skills and say, these are, 1, a lot of my skills are transferable, and 2, even if I don't have all of the skills, I'm pretty sure I can build those, as long as they're not pivotal technical skills, obviously, which you need to be able to go deep on. There are things that you can build within the job itself. And so I always just try to encourage women to be more confident in the skills that they have, and just take the risk and apply for the job. What's the worst thing that can happen? You don't get the job, but you've had the experience of trying, and it's definitely worth it. So that would be, again, sorry to interrupt, Apurva, but to me, very important message for women out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely understand that the She Builds initiative is trying to bridge that mindset, that women have about, them lacking in something, whereas men in general are confident about, we can, I can manage this, even if I don't have, 7, 3 out of 10 skills that, is required. And I feel that is really important, like a really important push for women to understand that things can be learned, things can be improved on, and nobody is born with all the 10 skills that is required. A process of
Yes,
learning and
absolutely.
unlearning to upgrade yourself and keep you updated in the tech industry.
Yes, and constantly learning is so important in all of the jobs with respect to tech. I mean, everything that you speak about on your show, Apurva, as you know, technology moves so fast. So you have to be someone who is able to say, okay, I don't know about this now, but I'm going to go away and learn about it. Like, if you want a successful career in technology, you have to be approaching it with an agile mindset. So that's where I see, we can really help women to build and grow their confidence in being able to adapt, be resilient. And I mean, if you think about the people who are most resilient in your world, certainly a lot of those in my life have been women. My mother, constantly having to change and deal with the changes of her children and the people around her. All of the women that I work with having to flex in and out of jobs for one reason or another. Women are typically very resilient. So, for me, I think for them to draw on that resilience and think differently about the opportunities in the workforce, I think is really important and would make them feel better about digging into those opportunities.
Absolutely. You've presented some really strong points, and I want to thank you for being a strong voice in this podcast and just letting things out that, women need to step up for themselves. That is how, they can even start themselves in the industry. So thank you so much for your, all your important points, Anna. They have been really helpful for our listeners, I'm sure. And that is where I think they will draw the inspiration to start what they've been pushing back for all this while if they're doing that.
That is my pleasure, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to have a conversation with you about this very important issue, Apurva. And as I said, here at AWS, these are things that we really care about, and we know it's a journey, and we want to start to build and grow as many women as we can to have interesting and exciting careers in technology. So thank you for being one of those women, Apurva, and I look forward to hearing more about you from your podcasts.
So, okay, just as an ending, can you let our listeners know where they can read up more about the She Builds initiative if they want to, find some more information or get a deeper perspective about what's happening?
Yeah, so just on the AWS website, and then just if you put in AWS She Builds, you'll be able to find our landing page. And indeed on LinkedIn, we have a lot of things that we're doing all the time. So you can follow any of the She Builds team on LinkedIn and learn more about what we're doing for women in technology as part of our programs. We have, as I said, AWS Cloud University, a mentorship program, and then regular events that we're running for women across Asia Pacific and Japan, and then eventually globally with our She Builds campaign. So we'd love to hear from women who want to get involved, women who want to come and speak, women who want to be part of a developer community, women who want to just learn more about how to move with the skills that they have into a job in technology. Just all the women out there who are interested in technology, come and join us as part of our AWS She Builds initiatives. We'd love to hear from you.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us for this podcast. I hope to see more exciting initiatives from your end, and may the future of the industry head right towards what you're predicting it will happen.
Thank you, Apurva. Thank you.